that song.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Episode 1993, 1993. It's Mike.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
1993. That was the year grunge started really getting big, and there was Nirvana, and then there was Pearl Jam, and Iguana. That's a little known band, Iguana, that didn't really exist. There was also Soundgarden and the Smiths. No, wait, the Smiths was the 80s. Hey, is this working, this device?
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Good. 1992, the previous year, had, I think, a lot of Aerosmith.
Mike's
I was crying
Daily
when she left me.
Podcast.
Was Deep Blue something in 92?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and then we had this little thing called, rap. Was rap? No, rap was earlier. I don't know. I'm trying to give you a music lesson, and it's not working. But I did remember 1993 because I think that was the year. Did I start country music in that year? I mean, I didn't start it. I didn't create it and make it. It was popular at that point because Garth Brooks was really big in the years leading up to 93. And then we had this band called, what was that band that crossed over? Little Texas? Nah, maybe not as. Yeah, so 93, kind of big for the country music world. That was the creation of hot country. And do we still hear those artists today like Alan Jackson, Mark Chestnut, Tracy Byrd, Kenny Chesney, Tim McGraw? They got all their start back in that general area. Hi, well, Mike Matthews here. It's been a busy couple of days. I've been doing this convention in Podcastro Valley. Got to witness a woman faint, not because she met me, although that's generally the reason, but we have a podcast picture right now.
And here's today's podcast picture.
It's not of her fainting, though. It is of the beautiful Lake Shasta, which I found out, and I talked about in a recent podcast, that several towns were buried underneath water to create Lake Shasta. Did not know that. But there is a view from the dam. You can see at MikesDailyPodcast.com. And you can sometimes say that word when you're at the type of convention that I was at yesterday. You can, but people generally frowned on it. But dang, people were not in the best of shape at this thing. There were people, they weren't really walking. Basil can't walk anymore, but he sure can be spry, even though he's not walking. Let's just say he's retired. He's hanging out. And as I've mentioned in previous podcasts, I have to get some kind of vehicle that will allow him to move about and see things. But he's doing well. Thanks for asking. Okay, so here we go. Back to this story about the woman fainting. So I was at this convention, and suddenly this woman starts to fall down, and there are these two guys around her talking to her, and they're able to catch her and lay her on the ground. And one of my coworkers proceeds to yell at me, "Mike, why aren't you calling 911? And I'm thinking, well, you have a phone too. You could be calling. But yeah, that is a good question. Why, when something like this happens, do we not pull out our phone right away, immediately, and make the call to 911? It's so easy. So, yeah, I pulled out the phone, and so I had dialed 911. I know back in one of my early cell phones, you could just hit the button 9 and hold it down, and it would call 911 for you. But I don't know. This is a fairly recent phone, so I don't know. I just hit 911 I don't want to make mistakes in a time like that. I just wanted to get the call made, and I got a hold of the paramedics. They showed up within 5 minutes. By that point, the woman was up. She was walking around. She was cognizant. She was processing brain activity, and she was almost back to normal, but the paramedics took a look at her to make sure everything was fine. Thank you, paramedics that showed up so quickly. That's a great thing. What's my point? My point is, Cicely, that you need to be ready with the technology we have today to help other people instantly. and I find it a bit hypocritical of the lady that told me, call 911 when she has a phone, and she could have done it. But at any rate, that's neither here nor there anywhere. We got the job done. But some people are better at ordering other people around than actually doing something. I guess is what they're doers. And then there are people that just yell at other people to do things, I guess is what I'm saying. That's an interesting thing, isn't it? All right. But does she faint because of coronavirus? No, just like low blood sugar. But people are not that healthy. Oh my gosh, at this event. They were sitting down. We had a couple chairs around our booth, and they were just sitting down like, oh, I'm winded. Oh, I can't take much more of this. Oh. And I'm thinking, this isn't like a big convention room. It's just like one room, and it's not that big. Picture like the smallest basketball gym you've ever seen, like for a high school, like a really tiny gym. That's how big this place is. And people like my age were not like, they were really overweight, and they're just huffing and puffing, and come on. We got to do better than this, people. So that was interesting. And when you have chairs around your booth, everyone sits down, and they just, I guess, they want to just hang. They didn't even talk to us. It was funny. They were just sitting there, like, ignoring on their phones, in their own little world, eating our candy. At any rate, that's what I observed. But we're at Mike's Daily Podcast Land and Cafe anyway, the last place on earth. All these people here, because these people here are not afraid to go out. These people are tough as nails, and they're brave, and they don't care about some stupid coronavirus. More people die of the flu than of the coronavirus. I'm going to be one of those people that says that. I'm also going to be one of these people that says wash your dang hands. But also don't completely rely on that antibacterial stuff. I know people are just lathering their hands with that, what's that? It's some kind of alcoholic gel on their hands constantly, the Purell and everything, just lathering up over and over and over again. And you know what? That's fine. Do it. Be on the safe side. But I don't want you to be alarmist. As we go outside a cafe anyway, we're bringing you Mike's Daily Podcast somewhere in Podcastro Valley Ton today. And I'm getting the whiff of a lot of alarmists just screaming out. And as I've said it before, alarmists are always the loudest, because like an alarm is really loud and you can't ignore it. It wakes you up, generally. Alarmists are loud, and I'm going to say in today's society often do not have the right information. So they're feeding you this misinformation. And I saw this happen with PG&E and the power shutoffs a couple months back. I've seen it prior to that with the flu scare we had last year, the Ebola scare. The list is long. Just be careful of alarmists, because they are often wrong. And you have to gather your information from several sources, not just Mike's Daily Podcast, just not the other podcast you love, not just the podcast. Oh gosh, I'm getting a spam call. What is going on with the spam calls? Have they gone up? Or when you buy a new phone, you become this instant target. And I put my phone on the do not call list. But you can call me if you want. 336MM daily. That's 3 + 3 = 6. MM as in Mike Matthews. Daily as in what this podcast almost was this week. I just missed 2 days because I had that convention thing. And it just got so busy. But, okay, so we discussed alarmists, Lake Shasta. We talked about people that, it's funny too, because in my job, I actually got to stay home the past couple days, and I was able to do some work from home, which is, what Facebook is doing these days. They're telling people stay home, and I mean, this might be the thing. I might have to be told to stay home, but we can't. In my business with radio, you got to have someone physically there. I was at a station this morning that had that went off the air because of the rain. And someone physically had to be here to get the thing going again. A couple people had to be here, had to brave the elements, had to brave the little bit of rain we're having and the scare of coronavirus. And there are a lot of people that say, nope, I'm not going to go outside. Mr. Costco guy, that's the guy who runs Costco, right? Mr. Costco guy, he said, no more samples. That's done. Although, as I've mentioned in recent podcasts, I have not gotten many samples lately. I go there and there's hardly anybody. I mean, this is before the coronavirus scare. And then the other bit is that Trader Joe's will give you a sample, but they're going to give it to you, I think, directly, or they'll hand it to you in a way that it will be without like other people touching it, and they'll give you an individual fork. So instead of it sitting on that tray, they're going to physically give it to you. I guess while they've got gloves on. I guess that's what will be. Post Malone, as I've discussed Post Malone, and as Kevin, who has sometimes has been on this show, has not been on it lately, but he told me the album that Post Malone has out now is very good. I just said the little vibrato thing he does with his voice I'm not a fan of. But Post Malone says he is not high on drugs. He squarely addressed the fans who are worried that he was in a pharmaceutical tailspin, saying he's clean. Okay. That's good news. By the way, you can hear me on the radio tomorrow. I'll be on 92.1 FM, KKDV, and you can listen to it at kkdv.com. They're also on the radio.com app, and I'm trying to get this show on the radio.com app. I have not heard back from them. That is not a good sign. So anyway, but every other streaming device, we're talking TuneIn, iHeartRadio, Spotify. You can listen to Mike's Daily Podcast and also catch it at MikesDailyPodcast.com. The 2011 movie Contagion. Oh, that was the one where Gwyneth Paltrow bit the dust. Goop didn't help her there. The coronavirus has led to a rush on people watching it because they can't get enough stress in their lives, I guess. It has cracked the top 10 on the digital charts. It's Steven Soderbergh's dystopic feature film. The folks over at the blog The Cut say, definitely don't watch Contagion. It accurately depicts the danger of widespread panic, prejudice, and misinformation during a pandemic. Everything we've been discussing so far on this podcast today. And the misinformation during a pandemic, specifically via the internet and social media. On the other hand, the Detroit Free Press says, watching Contagion will freak you out amid coronavirus fears, but it's worth it. Oh, thank you. So will you watch that? The University of Washington becomes the first major college to shift all classes online due to the coronavirus fears. And South by Southwest has been canceled because of it. And the James Bond movie has been pushed back 7 months. Dang. Well, there you go. But, I mean, is this the time? Let me tell you, if this means less traffic on the roads, it's kind of hard not to be, I'm not complaining about the no traffic on the roads or less traffic, if that's a thing. Because dang, people are staying at home and I can drive on the roads. The cause and effect there is kind of neat, but it's not good at the same time. All right. There's some people at Cafe Anyway we should say hi out to this morning. God, it was nice sleeping in the past couple of days. I had to get up really early today, but because I got to work from home and this convention was in Castro Valley, so really close to where I live. I'm like, yes, I'm not going all the way to Fremont just to do one thing for 1 hour and then come back to Castro Valley. No. Hey, let's say hi to some folks.
Hello, Mike Matthews. It's Chely Shoehart, gift shop supervisor. I really like this picture you have on MikesDailyPodcast.com.
Yes, MikesDailyPodcast.com has this wonderful picture of the Lake Shasta. I would love to, let's say, live there. It's funny because someone else where I work quit and moved to Lake Shasta, so it seems like some kind of a thing to do. A malfunction has caused red wine to flow from faucets in an Italian town. That's right. Like, people are going to drink that with all the coronavirus going on. I'll drink wine out of my tap. I'm scared of going outside because of the coronavirus, but I'll drink wine that's just coming right through my pipes. That's a good idea. It's what? Sterilized slightly already, isn't it? Because it's alcohol? No, I don't know if that's how that works. Look who else is here. Oh, Mike, this is Floyd the Floorman. And this is John Deere, the engineer. Mike, I am trying my best to fight coronavirus. Thank you, John. Yes, I should have this licked pretty soon. Very good. And by licked, you don't mean I have to lick something like the surface of a much-used countertop at work, for example. Is that what you're saying? I don't understand the question. Well, there's a lady I work with who is constantly getting those Lysol wipes and wiping every surface down over and over and over again, and it's getting a little Howard Hughesy at this point. I still don't understand the question, Mike. All right, well, at any rate, it's the weekend. You should enjoy it. You should not be an alarmist, but be cautious and enjoy yourself. Next show, it'll be the wonderful Benita, the Disgruntled Fiddle Player, and the Brewmaster. And, of course, I am on KKDV, kkdv.com, 6 a.m. to noon tomorrow. Oh, and don't forget to set your clocks 8 hours forward, because we're now going to be on German time. Everybody, we're going to be German now. That was the little... I don't have my ding-ding bell. I gave it to my lovely lady friend. When Craig Ferguson did the show, it was like, what do we do the first ding? We do German voice, second ding, German voice, third ding, Dracula. It was a great show, Craig Ferguson. Oh, I miss him so. The stress got to him, I think. That's what happened. He did such a good job, though, and he was a Doctor Who fan. And his good friend Peter Capaldi became the Doctor. And now I'm really confused because I don't know what's going on. There's like 80,000 different Doctors now, not just the one Doctor. This is why I didn't like Green Lantern. It's like you have a superhero named Green Lantern, but then you got all these other Green Lanterns, all these other alien Green Lanterns. I want just one of the superhero. I don't want... This is what I don't understand with the Spider-Man. There's all these different Spider-Mans now. Give me one of the superhero. Played by one actor all the time. Lou Ferrigno, Hulk, that's it. No, what was his name? Caviezel and Norton, and then you got the Ruffalo, I mean. Come on, one. Stick to it. Stick to the superhero. And then that's my last complaint for today's podcast. What do you think about all this? You can call me 336-MM as in Mike Matthews, daily as in what this podcast will be. And it's 336 as in the North Carolina area code, which I don't live in, but it still works for me anyway. And it's 3 + 3 = 6. MM as in two letters that are M, and daily as in a day that's going on to the second day, which pretty much this podcast is going to do if I don't shut up right now.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at MikesDailyPodcast.com. Email Mike now at MikesDailyPodcast@gmail.com. See you tomorrow. Bye.
Point of fact, as we wrap up the show completely in just 10 seconds, a coworker that I mentioned that was yelling at me to call 911 also yelled at me because I licked my fingers. I was eating French fries and I wanted to lick the salt off my fingers. And she goes, you can't do that with the coronavirus. What's wrong with you? What do you think about that? 336MM Daily. She goes, your girlfriend should have taught you better. If you're on a date, she'd dump you so fast. Yesterday was fun. MikesDailyPodcast.com.